As you get older, you actually feel the changes taking place. And again, this is whether you were fit or not. You feel the changes, right? Like, I feel the difference in my body from when I was 25 years old, 30 years old, to now I'm 50. You feel the difference, right? Um, you don't recover as fast, right? And you feel it. You feel the difference. You don't recover as fast, right? You have to be more intentional about um, putting effort into physical activity, right? Like it's almost as if it takes more effort, right, to get the same results that you got at 30 years old, right? I remember like running at the age of 25, 30 years old. I remember running, sprinting, right? And I was still pretty fast, 25, 30 years old. I'm still pretty fast, right? And quick for my age. But what I'm saying is, I definitely feel the difference, you know, now as opposed to when I was 25, 30 years old, right? I'm not as fast, right? And that's part of the changes, right? And we accept that. That's part of the changes. Here's the thing that really triggers me, right? When I think of myself and I think of the fact that I do feel the changes in my body and I'm relatively fit, right? I'm relatively fit. Matter of fact, I'm 50 years old, and the type of things I do physically with my body is still considered elite level fitness, right? The type of um, fitness that I practice, right? Calisthenics, body weight training, the things that I do and the level I do it at, right? 200 pull ups in 20 minutes, things like that. At 50, right? My fitness level is still considered elite. For example, 200 pull ups in 20 minutes. I think that's like 4 pull ups per minute or something like that, right? But here's what I'm getting at. Even if you're 30 years old and you're doing 200 pull ups in 20 minutes, that's elite level. To be 50 and doing that, right? I think that's, exceptional, right? But here's the interesting thing though. Even though I'm still operating at an elite level, right, with my fitness, I can still feel a difference in my body from when I was 30 years old to now being 50. I still feel a difference, right? There's still a difference. My body still recovers slower, right? It still takes a little more effort to get the same results and things like that, right? But in a lot of ways, I'm I'm a lot fitter than I was when I was 30 years old. Now, here's the thing. It might just be that I really didn't push myself to my full potential when I was 30 years old. That could be the reason, right? And as I got older, I started pushing myself more and more, right? Where in a lot of ways I feel um stronger in certain areas, right? I feel stronger, I feel fitter in certain areas. Like there are things I struggled with in my 30s that at 50 I don't struggle with, right? So that's kind of a weird phenomena, right? That's kind of a weird, phenomena that I don't fully understand, right? But I'm just kind of trying to explain, my experience personally. Someone else's experience might be different, but I'm just saying, I'm just explaining my situation. So at 50 years old, I feel pretty good, right? I feel good. My energy level is stable, right? I don't have a lot of crashes. I may crash every now and then, right? Where I need to take a nap and stuff like that, which I feel is normal, right? But in general, I don't experience energy crashes at all. My energy level is always stable, right? Um, Even at times when I may go to bed a little late, I wake up in the morning and I'm up, right? And I don't really experience, crashes like that, right? So yeah, I'm not saying that at 50, I'm just ready to give up, or it's becoming impossible to keep my fitness going. This is not that type of message. This is not what I'm trying to get at all. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to um explain that even when you're fit, you still experience changes in your body, right? The only difference is, as a fit, active person, right, the changes are very slow. The changes are there, but it's very slow, and it don't really affect you as much. When I think about the way I feel sometimes in my body as a fit person, I don't even want to imagine what it's like when you're not fit, above 40, above 45, right? When you're not in good physical shape. I don't even want to imagine what that feels like, right? Because when I think about the effort it takes to keep myself, right, in peak physical condition, when I think about the effort it takes, like, I'll give you an example. Like, sometimes I go play tennis with my daughter, and when we're playing tennis, and you have tennis is a movement game. You move a lot. So let's say I'm chasing after a ball, right? When you bend down to pick up a ball, I'm always conscious, right? And I always make it a point, is what I should say, to not use the tennis racket as a crutch to bend down to pick up a ball, right? I make it a point because I could feel my brain always wanting to use the tennis racket as a crutch to bend down to pick up the ball, right? I think you actually keep yourself in good physical shape much longer when you avoid relying on external things. So again, so what I'm saying is, as someone who has crossed 40, 45, 50, you have to pay close attention to everything that you do. You have to pay close attention. If you want to preserve your physical strength, right? Your agility, your conditioning, all of that, you have to pay attention to almost every little thing that you do, right? Again, as far as walking up a stairs, try walking up the stairs without holding on to a rail, right? If you're bending down to pick something up, right? Try squatting down, pick it up, and jump right back up, right? I use all these little things as opportunities to condition myself, right? So, for instance, I drop something on the floor. A lot of times I'll bend down, pick it up, and I'll hop right back up, right? Instead of crawling down and then crawling back up, I'll dip right down and I'll sprint right back up. I'll hop right back up. If you're in the gym, you're at that age and you're in the gym, it's important to modify your workouts, right? Because again, your joints aren't what they used to be when you were 30 years old, right? And we have to be honest with these things. We have to be honest about these changes. So you have to start modifying your training to match your age, right? And this, again, this doesn't mean that you're deteriorating. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean none of that. But we have to be honest about the fact that your body does go through changes, right? We do experience these changes, right? And when when you're in shape and you're fit, they happen slowly, right? Incrementally, but very slow, almost a crawl, which is good and which is what we want, right? Because that's all we're doing. We're just slowing down the aging process, but it's still taking place, right? So you still want to adjust the things you do to match your age. And in doing so, what you're actually doing is you're preserving yourself, right? As opposed to overworking yourself, right? Overworking your joints, pushing too hard, and actually speeding up the process, right? Through injuries, recovering slowly, different things like that, that could happen if you don't pay attention to the way you work out. So, so pay attention to how you work out, right? Even the length of time you work out for. When you hit 40 and above, you don't need to work out for 2 hours, right? Believe it or not, you can get a brutal, effective workout in 20, 30 minutes. Matter of fact, um, you could actually get a decent workout in 10 minutes. Believe it or not, you could get a decent workout in 10 minutes. You push a 10-minute workout to its limit, and you know what I'm saying? You'll be sweating, get your heart rate up, your cardiovascular, right? Going and get a good pump, muscle pump in 10 minutes. So again, so we discussed paying attention to the type of weight training that you do, right? How long you work out in the gym. You don't have to work out for 2 hours, right? 45 minutes to an hour is good, right? Um, you also want to include a lot of movement in your workout routine as you get older, right? So a lot of high intensity training, right? Farmers walks, right? Sled pushes, right? All these different things, jump squats, right? Split squats. You want to add all these movements to your workout routine as opposed to just stationary types of workouts like bench press, and different things like that. You want to add workouts that will challenge your mobility, right? Because as you get older, mobility becomes more important, right? Mobility, balance, right? Agility, all these things. These are the things you want to focus on as you get older, because these are the things that will become more important as you get older, right? And these are the types of exercises that will keep you in peak condition for much longer, right? So mix it up, right? For me, I do a ratio of about 30% weight training and 70% high intensity free training, right? So that's 30% weights and 70% free training. That's what I do, right? And I found that that works for me, right? You may have to experiment with maybe a different ratio, but definitely you should be doing a lot of free training, right? As you get older, right? The main objective as you get older is functional fitness. That's the main objective, right? It's no longer how much you could bench press, how much you could deadlift, how much you could squat. All of that is cool when you're younger, right? Because it's just something to do. But as you get older, fitness becomes more about longevity and preservation, right? Preserving your joints and different things like that. So pay attention to that, right? That's major important as you get older. Major important. And of course, I don't have to to say, diet. Of course, diet goes without saying. What looking at your diet, making sure that you eat enough protein, right? Healthy fats, getting your carbs in as well, healthy carbs, right? Things like that, drinking enough water, different things like that. All of these things help to maintain your physical as you get older, right? Make sure you're eating in the right window of times, right? Um, yeah. So these are the things you want to pay attention to as you get older, right? So yeah, I just wanted to come on here real quick and talk to the men over 40 and just encourage you guys, right? Make sure that you don't give in to the lies, the systematic lies in the media and different things like that. And what I'm talking about is, how you see all these things as soon as you get to 40 years old, 45, it's almost as if they start targeting you, right? Even your doctor, you know, if you have a primary physician, you have to make sure you're asking questions, make sure you're understanding what they're recommending to you, right? And this is not, I'm not saying don't listen to your doctor or anything like that, right? But what I'm saying is make sure you're paying attention because these are the ages where they start trying to push things on you, right? So this is why it's important to take command of your, this is why it's important to take command of your health and understand yourself, understand your physical body, understand, your physical makeup and the things you should be doing, shouldn't be doing, right? This is a time to lock in and understand what's going on. This is the time where as you hit 40, 45, 50, they start trying to sell you all type of stuff. So, of course, they're going to try to frame, or try to justify all these different products out there by getting into your psyche, right? And making you believe that because you're a certain age, you need this, you need that, right? You need Viagra, you need XYZ, you need this type of medication, you need metformin, you need, right? So remember, age in a lot of ways is nothing but a number for a lot of people. Remember that, right? Age is not a sentence. Being 50, being 60, being 70 is not a sentence, right? In any form, right? You have people 100 years old still running marathons and races, right? That's because that's the way they see themselves. So understand that this boils down to the way you see yourself, right? So be aware of that and to pay attention to the things that you're allowing to affect your mental, right? Whatever you believe you're capable of, that's what it's going to be, right? So I just wanted to come on here real quick and just encourage you guys, right? And just share a little bit with you guys based on some of my personal experiences and different things like that. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Go ahead and drop a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.